morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folarin. I was a bit excited this morning when I opened the papers, or got the papers, and saw this one about the presidency giving a 7-day ultimatum, a 7-day deadline on workers' pay in the federal civil service. If you look at it, the presidency would appear not to be down with this whole matter about owing people. So it has directed, in a September 14 circular sent out from the office of the head of the civil service of the Federation, it has directed, the presidency has directed that all arrears owed such people must be paid. And the presidency gave 7 days, which will be up by the 21st of this month, which is Monday, for the whole list of those who are owed in the federal public sector to arrive the office of the head of the Federal Civil Service. In terms of what exactly is the content, I was pleasantly surprised at the level of detail that the article that reports this cited. And I'll just read a paragraph. The presidency identified outstanding benefits as salary arrears, promotion arrears, first 28 days allowance on transfer from post, repatriation allowance, burial expenses, death benefits, and mandatory training of OH, that is Office of the Head of the Civil Service of the Federation. And interestingly, you must also state in your list and your analysis, you must also state whether the officer you're talking about is serving or retired. And my ears perked up, so to speak, that, considering what retirees, pensioners have been going through, it's become almost something of a cliche. It does look like these are different times. And understandably, the associations, the relevant associations, they're besides themselves with joy. And they have warned such centers to not play politics with this, otherwise there'll be trouble to pay. This is yet another example, I think, of one of the things President Buhari said before, during his campaign trail, that it's not going to be business as usual. But going here, because, and the whole idea of the presidency is that when we get this list, when we verify that it's accurate, these will then be paid, so we can put all of this behind us and then get on with the job. This would appear to be a new, quite frankly, it's something new, I think. But we will see what our guests think. And our guest this morning got Dr. John Kome. Dr. John Kome, he's a friend of the house. He's been in, but we've missed him in recent times. John Kome is also a pastor, but that's not why he's here today. He is also a keen observer of the polity and commentator on policy. Thank you very much for coming on, Dr. Kome.
Good to see you again.
Indeed. And our friend, you say, I wanted to say Dr. Jide Johnson. He cautioned me, say, it is Mr. Jide Johnson. Mr. Jide Johnson, he's of the Nigerian Institute of Journalism. Thank you very, very much for coming on. Deputy Registrar, in fact.
Deputy Provost.
I beg your pardon. Deputy Provost. You're very welcome, sir.
It's a pleasure to be with you once again, Uncle Yori.
Thank you very much.
A nice time out with you.
Thank you very much. Now, let me start off with you. It's almost revolutionary. I mean, this thing that should be our right. Workers work. Something happens, something breaks, and they don't get paid for so long, and we hear horrible stories of people being owed 6 months' salary, 9 months' salary, 12 months' salary. Some even say it's even worse than that in some cases. And now the presidency, in one fell swoop, would appear to be attempting to put all of this behind us. Such a wide-reaching announcement from the presidency. Give you 7 days to collate the list of those that are owed and put them in the office of the head of the Federal Civil Service of the Federation. Does that surprise you?
Well, it's a welcome development in the sense that we are moving in the right direction. Moving in the right direction because no nation can ever move forward without a strong, virile, active, dynamic civil service. Because the bulk of your policy direction, the implementation and execution, sometimes the initiation of the policy direction of a nation is carried out by the civil service. And I'm not surprised by this because you recall that when the president-elect then constituted his transition committee, you will see the composition. There were people that were in the civil service in the era that we should regard as the golden era of Nigerian civil service in the 70s. In the 70s, I think this type of reform is the kind of reform that we witnessed when Murtala became the head of state and
head of state at
the time, and there was a major reorganization before the abracadabra of the politicization of the civil service by the Babangida's administration. I think we are going back to the era in which the civil service is well reorganized, is well structured. You don't have any cost to steal. If you know that your allowances, your future is taken care of, your needs are taken care of, why would you have cost to steal state money? Are you getting my point? I think with doing this, we help us to solve the problem of corruption from every tier of our governance, from the elective side, from the political people, and from the civil service. I think it's a step in the right direction. And I think this should be extended to other states of the Federation.
Well, exactly. This is still at the federal level. And really, if you remember, I suppose we'll come to that. If you remember when the president and his vice, when they declared their assets publicly, you heard some reactions from some states that, well, it's not mandatory and that kind of a thing. But we'll come to that. Dr. Kome, there's also the matter of justice, isn't there, which is embedded in this whole report that was it's on the front page of The Nation this morning, this 7-day ultimatum. In addition to everything that Jide said, there's also the matter of justice, because before it was hard going.
Yes, but I think like Jide said, you see, we are now moving in the right direction after many years of total decay and total collapse of the civil service or the entire system. I think the man coming in now, the man who is just there now, want to bring us back to the way things are supposed to be done.
But when you say total collapse, perhaps you meant that as a something of a hyperbole, because it is the very civil service and the palm sex at the head that are running things now in the absence of ministers. So maybe it just appeared to be collapsed. Maybe it wasn't actually heading for collapse. Maybe they knew what they were doing. Because I'm surprised that this directive was given. What I mean by that is that the president won't give a bad order. He won't allow a bad order to be issued. So he would have issued an order that he knows can be complied with. And if it can be complied with in, what are we in now, September 2015, that could have been done in 2010. I imagine.
I remember that as at this moment, the president has not named his ministers first. We have the politicians in the system of governance, and we have the civil service or civil servant in governance. Now, you see, I think Mr. President would have given this order when the minister was sworn in, because he knows that there may be some political manipulations of his directives. And you don't forget now, we should not forget in a hurry, that the president has been dealing with the permanent secretary over time. He's been calling each permanent secretary, come and brief me about what's happening in your MDS or whatever. So from what information at the table of Mr. President, he has to give that directive now before the minister comes in.
I see. So before, yes, that's one idea.
No. I want to disagree with Doctor here in the sense that the permanent secretary, the issue we are talking about, has nothing to do with the ministers. Don't forget, ministers don't deal with civil service, emolument, salaries, and what have you. It's office of the head of service.
Yeah. They are more concerned with policy, is your idea. Policy implementation?
Policy implementation.
Implementation.
Yeah, implementation. Anything that has to do with this, like this circular, couldn't come from the office of the secretary to the federal government. It will come from what? From the head of service, which is, that's the greatest ambition of any civil servant, is to become the head of service. I think it's the failure of the leadership of the civil service over time. Because the permanent secretaries that we have now, are they imported from heaven? Or the head of service we have now, is he imported or is she imported from heaven? They are all Nigerian, they've all been there. They are the people that have been sitting on the allowances of staff below them. And I think that the only area which I will agree with you, we have a president that wants to do something right, and from the brief which he received and checking his body language, observing his body language, all of these agencies are complying with the directive of the president.
I understand, you know, banks were virtually shut down yesterday, almost trying to comply with the TSA, you know, Treasury single account requirements.
Let me draw Uncle Jide's back to a fact that we should have looked into today, if not for this new development. That as yesterday we heard that the EFCC for 7 hours grilled the then immigration
head of immigration.
What happened to the money you recover or you got from the applicants?
That was our topic yesterday.
And from what information you brought, you said, look, there's a need for us to call the then Minister of Interior, Abamoro. Now, like I was saying, no matter what the permanent secretary or the head of civil service want to do, the political powers,
they can wield influence.
Yes, influence in the implementation of whatever policies the Mr. President or whoever brings about.
And it's for the permanent secretary to resist, and he can resist, but then he might not, as probably has been the case.
Why?
Well, that's why. Why? Because you started off by saying that, and you're right too, that, wait a minute, permanent secretaries are very, very powerful senior officers. And so when a person now says that power, we can put it to one side, the question is, why?
Uncle Yori, do you know that a minister cannot sack a permanent secretary?
Yes.
Do you know that the president cannot wake up one morning and say, I'm sacking all the permanent secretaries? There are procedures. Even a governor cannot sack a level 8 officer. He has to go through the Civil Service Commission.
That's right.
Set up disciplinary committees.
Yes, yes.
The key question we need to ask ourselves is that, what is wrong with people that are charged with responsibility?
Okay.
Because
exactly.
The present civil service
that is
that are
what is wrong.
The present civil service that are working with the president today were the civil service that worked with President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, were the civil service that worked with all of it. Is the same EFCC.
Is there not a sense that now they are being allowed to work? I'm just theorizing. But if these same people that are able to do good now were not able to do good yesterday, then it can only be because something was tying their hands. That's my speculative theory.
And that's what I said. I used the word collapse. That the system was already almost collapsed.
The EFCC that interrogated
David Badaram.
Sorry, sir. Is collapse therefore the word? Isn't sabotage more like the proper word?
Okay.
You know?
You see, God help Nigeria in giving us Buhari.
Amen.
Are you getting my point? The question I've been asking is that what happens to Nigeria after the end of Buhari's tenure? Hypothetically, let's put it, this is 2023. Let's say the president wins 2 terms. What happens to Nigeria?
When his tenure expires, what happens to Nigeria? Well, hopefully what is happening now will add to the answer of that question in the future.
In the future.
Will add to the answer.
I think what we need to do is
because the objective appears to be on President Buhari administration. The objective appears to be to set things right as much as possible.
Like he said, during Murtala Mohammed era, things were not that bad.
In fact,
after that time, there was a decay.
People went the road back.
Yeah, somebody came in now to set things back, the structure down. And I believe before he leaves, the structure may have taken some element of time to have been still in the sensibility and the mindset of Nigerians. So if he goes and somebody is coming to destroy that structure, it may not be easily likely because Nigerians are no more.
I think what we need to do is to have a complete purge of the civil service, like it happened.
And that's what the man is doing. I
know, like how it happened. Because I keep asking this question: how would Abamoro cannot? He cannot sign the check. The chief accounting officer in the ministries are the permanent secretary. not the minister.
That's right.
Not the minister.
Yes.
I can't imagine myself as a permanent secretary and the minister will give me a directive to sign a check that I know that is it. The problem is with you and myself included. I'm not excluding, and I think we need to have a rethink on what it means to be a Nigerian.
Okay.
We are so fortunate to have a president, and I keep asking this question: if this president goes in 8 years, what happened? If the next president has the same body language of the president we have had in the past, so we go back to square one.
Or what he is working on now would have taken root.
That is exactly what I think we should
Would have taken root. Because Nigerians, correct me if you think it's you don't see it that way. Nigerians appear to be anxious to take ownership of this new attitude.
I agree with you totality. We want to, but I think that for me, anyone that has been in the civil service from director in the last 6-7 years should go. From the state to the federal, they are part and parcel of the corruption we witness. I'm telling you the truth. I
hear you.
Because how would somebody open his eyes and allow? You know, we had a story. Somebody stole 6 billion and nobody raised a flag until God gave us a Buhari.
Yes.
That's when people now start raising up their hands.
I disagree with you.
Let me hear from Dr. Kome.
With you.
Okay.
Before I say what I want to say, I disagree with you. That nobody raised an eyebrow.
Okay.
People actually raised eyebrows.
But they were ignored.
They were even sent out of the system.
Yeah.
I felt, if you don't mind, Sanusi raised an eyebrow. What happens to him? And there's, even the NNPC former MD, GMD, also raised an eyebrow. And it was sent out, as we were told anyway, by the same person or the group of people who were said to have, gone away with $6 billion. They raised eyebrow and said, keep quiet. He said, no, my contract I will show you the way. And they showed them the way out.
It was a different ethical climate at the time. It was a different ethical climate at the time. So as you say, people might have raised, issues, and
they were silenced.
They were silenced. That was the ethical climate
and
then.
People were afraid
but now, apparently, this is a different ethical climate. The president, in fact, set the tone for that ethical climate between him and his vice when they said, this is how I am. This is my declaration of assets. I don't have to put it in the public domain, but I am doing so. That's raising the bar a bit. And that sort of gives you some sort of direction, doesn't it?
Okay.
As to how to go.
And let me say this. I'm not too sure yet who the minister will be or who they are. But from what I read in front of the pages of the newspapers, the group of people this man is want to bring around him, I think for years, the likes of Falana, the like of Professor Tommy and Dumego and all of these people, we know they are antecedents.
If there is anything to that speculative list.
Yes.
If there is anything to it.
Yes,
those are the names that are in it.
Yeah, because he said, after this man goes, after 4 years or 8 years, what will happen? I want to tell you, there are so many Buharis in this country. Yeah. There are so many people who have the same mindset and the same crusading spirit like Buhari, and Buhari is going out wherever fishing them.
Look at that man he sent to customs, the chairman of customs.
Yes, the colonel.
That Colonel Ali.
Yeah, and the man is flushing. Is now
you saw his very first statement.
Bring their files.
No nonsense. Bring it on. Bring what you got on. I'm waiting for you here.
What you said now is what is about to happen.
I agree.
But Uncle Jide, let me say something. You said you recommended that, look, this crop of this permanent secretary or whoever who are already in the corrupt system should be flushed out.
Flush them out.
But let me tell you that there's a saying that if you remove the elderly people from this community, young people will see virtue and it is as fouls.
Let me put it across to you. The golden years of this nation, check it out, 76 to 79. A lot of...
How do you mean? 76 to 79?
76? No. I'm serious. If you look at institutions...
What regime was in charge then? That was just before Shagari?
Yeah, just before Shagari. The institutions that we have, the institutions, if we begin to talk about the institutions that we have in place, in terms of educational institutions, in terms of research institutions, if you look at the national level.
Yeah, but that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that it's a military administration that you are referring to as the golden.
I'm building something. Now, it happened as a result of the purge of the civil service by Murtala's administration. There were crises and crises all over the nation. You see, the development we want in this society can never happen because the drivers of policies, the drivers of change are the civil servants. They are the ones, they are the foot soldiers that will bring about meaningful changes. And I tell you this.
Are you saying that civil servants are cogs in the wheel of progress?
With the structure, the civil service we have in the past, plus they corrupted themselves with the...
Who corrupted them?
They corrupted themselves. Who corrupted them? Let's take it out from there. Who corrupted them, if not the political class?
Oh, Uncle Yori, let me tell you the truth. And people will call him. If you are elected as a local government chairman, the first thing that will be done to you is that the council manager or the trade, it's a live program, will come and meet you at home and tell you, sir, this is the way we do it. This is the way we do it. I want to be challenged by anybody. Yes. Now, this is the way. Sir, if you want to make, I'm coming up. If you want to make money, this is the way you have to go. This is the way you have to go. It is the civil servant that will show you the way.
I can imagine. I can imagine. That was then. I am hoping that with this new climate, this new ethical climate, that chap who arrives somebody's house and is telling them this is how we do it, probably is not going to be as bold as of yore.
I agree with you
on the first time. Secondly, the guy who is even there, whoever it is meeting, is probably going to do a Colonel Ali on him.
That's why I'm saying that we need to restructure the civil service.
Okay, Dr. Kome.
Okay, I go back to what I just said earlier. Yes. That from the crop of the ministers, the passive ministers, I think there are more of people who are not politicians.
Aha, okay.
So
more technocrats. So
I'm going to see the civil servant who is coming to meet such people, to meet Folarin or to meet what's the name, and say, this is how we do it.
The Patutomis of this world. We don't know if those guys are going to be ministers, but I understand.
I want to give you an example.
Yes.
Osita, I can't remember his surname, the last minister of aviation. Yeah. When he came on board as the FRC director, concerning your driver's license, they gave us all the policies. We talk as if we are not in Nigeria. They gave us all the policies. They gave us all this. This is what you need to do. You don't need to do. You know what it cost you to collect your driver's license?
Under what climate?
Under what climate?
Yes, compared to the climate now.
Okay.
That's the point we're trying to say.
Right.
We are saying this is a different climate and orientation entirely.
And that
at the helm of affairs.
And Dr. Kome, let me just quickly go to Jide. That is. So they're speaking into my ear. They're confusing me. I think somebody forgot the pot open. So everything they're saying there is coming in here. But I'll try and make sense of it. You see, you seem to not think that. In fact, you said so. That it's not possible to reform us. Is that because you think?
No, I'm not saying it's not possible. What
human beings are.
No, I'm not saying it's not possible.
They've seen easy money.
I'm saying that for us to move forward, the kind of purge we have in 1976 in the civil service, we need to have, because the same...
You think it's going to take a purge?
We require a purge in the civil service because the driver of public governance is the civil service. The drivers of what we have is the civil service, and we need to have. I'm serious. That's my view.
Okay.
We need to have a major purge of the civil, because they are the same set of people that work with past administration. Anyone that has spent from the post of director upward that has spent 5 years in the civil service with last needs to go. Because if you look at the amount of money,
that may not be the solution. Because let me tell you, it is not the civil servant in the higher position that are corrupt. Corruption is in the fabric of our nation. Even the mechanic out there is corrupt. When you take your car to the mechanics, what happened? The bricklayers, everybody. I'm sorry to say, even some of us pastors are even corrupt. So are you going to purge the whole country? Who is the angel you want to put there?
No,
I think the situation or the climate on ground now is just what we are praying to God. Let the man up there do what he's doing gradually. And you know, the purge must also be a gradual process.
I agree with you.
Yes. Okay. You will carry both the child and the basin and throw away.
You know, I grew up in a waterwash quarters. I know what I'm talking about. Check the lifestyle of an average civil servant today, from the local government to the state government to the federal government. Check. I know what if we don't put the civil service right, what Buhari is doing is cosmetic. It's what? Cosmetic.
But I think that is what the man is trying to do.
It's cosmetic.
If I'm right, I think that's what the man is trying to do now. Because like I said earlier on, people were crying. There was cries and hues everywhere. Why is the man delaying appointing ministers? I remember when he went to the United States at the instance of Obama. He even made a remark that Obama, when you came in during your first time, you didn't even appoint your secretaries on time. So allow me to clear or to purge, let me use your language, to purge the system. And that's the reason why he put a hold on the ministers. Let me deal with the permanent secretary. Let me see how the structure got so bad. And let me see what I can do to put it in order. And before this so-called ministers come. And when the ministers come in, I think they are going to join Mr. President to do the purge we're talking about.
Yes.
That's what I'm thinking.
That is one possibility, because it would appear, and Jide, to come back to you briefly, do you hold the civil service itself responsible for the maladministration that led to salaries, leave allowances, death duties, all of these, death allowance, everything not being paid? I mean, I was surprised when I saw how the circular specified that the presidency has already identified the outstanding benefits as salary arrears, promotion arrears, first 28 days are very, very detailed, transfer to posts, burial expenses, death benefits, and mandatory training. So it's very, very detailed.
The circular is from which office?
The office of the head of the civil service of the Federation. So
who is in charge of, among the people working with the president, the technocrat working with the president, the secretary to the federal government, and the head of service, who is responsible for briefing the president on civil service? Is the HOS, is the head of service.
No,
you will see that this problem, I'm coming, you will see that this problem we are addressing, it's a civil service problem caused by the civil servants themselves.
That the president is now
trying to clean up.
That the president is trying to clean up.
Because the president knows the importance of the civil service in driving his policies. That's why, you see, it's from experience. The president knows the importance of the civil service in driving his policies.
May we not exclude the society themselves?
Yes.
We they let themselves.
Because even those civil servants come from where? They come from the society now.
The society.
They come from the society.
I said you and I. I didn't exclude myself. Yes, in my earlier submission, I said you and I. Okay. We are all involved. That we are to take ourselves.
Jide's position is very, very clear. He couldn't be clearer in his position. But you are saying that we need to be careful here, Dr. Kome. That's why you're saying that.
Sure.
Look, whereas, without junking any of his points, you're saying that still the matter, there has to be a sort of a softy approach. Now, what do you think, Dr. Kome, of the idea that people are saying, this is not the time for softy approach. A radical ailment requires a radical cure, you know, and so that is perhaps there will be people who identify what Jide is saying, just as there are those who are saying that you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We shouldn't. Otherwise, we deplete our own manpower strength, quality manpower strength, which is always a hard thing to come by. So these are the paradoxes. But it would seem to me that the presidency, I said it at the beginning, is not going to knowingly give a bad order. So they know it can be done. Otherwise, the statement so that these monies owed can be paid immediately. The word immediately is in there. Can be paid immediately, put this unfortunate experience behind us, and then get on with it. So it shows that there is provision for the right thing to be done if indeed there is the will to do it. I'm going to come back to you. I've got to go on a quick commercial break. Please hold your thought. I'll come right back to you, Dr. Kome. Stay with us, please. I'll be right back.